everybody, and welcome to episode number 48 of eBay the Right Way. I'm your host, Suzanne A. Wells, and today's date is February 16th, 2022. My guest today is Shawn Carpenter, who I call the Plush Goddess because she really knows her plush. And she has about 1,000 plush listed in her store. So she has a lot of great information and wisdom to share with us in this eBay chat. Before we jump into the chat, students, pull out your calendars. We're going to do a quick check-in. We're going to jump ahead to February 19th. The task that day is actually not really a task. It's just something for you to think about because that's what this calendar is for, is to get you thinking. It says, what do you want your eBay money to pay for? And some people have a specific goal. They're paying for a child's college tuition. They're saving for a vacation. They're saving for a vehicle, or they're just living on the money, which is what I did for many, many years. So if you don't have a specific goal for your eBay money, and that's fine if you don't, but maybe this is the time to create one so that you can live the life you want. If you've always wanted to visit or take a vacation to a specific place somewhere in the world or do something special for yourself, go ahead and set that goal because thoughts create things. There's two kinds of people in the world: people who make things happen and people who wait for things to happen. So the money generated by your eBay business can absolutely change your life, and you can do whatever you want to with it, but it's more likely to happen if you have a plan. Next up is a shout out to a couple of sellers that sent in testimonials about the Bolo book. So students, grab your Bolo book. Crystal said, today at the thrift store, I found the items on pages 134 and 140 sitting right next to each other. Now, these are plush items. The item listed on page 134 can sell for up to $120, and the item on page 140 is a vintage item made famous by a commercial, and it could sell for up to $80. And I want to share these testimonials with you because it's proof that sellers are finding the items in this book. The items are, quote, findable. They're not so rare and elusive that nobody's finding them. And that's the whole point of the Bolo book, is to educate sellers about these high profit items that you might be walking by every time you go out to find inventory to sell. The next testimonial is from Marlene. She said, I'm so pleased with my Bolo handbook. I thought it might not apply to me since my items come from a lifelong accumulation of treasures and 40 years of family inheritances. My plan to rehome these items in 2017 was to sell them on eBay. The book features several items I remember packing up in boxes years ago. I'm motivated to open those boxes and start listing. Thank you, Suzanne. Job well done. And you are welcome, Marlene. So the point here is that you may already have some of the items in this book and not realize how much they can sell for. I've received this type of testimonial a few times where people are saying, oh, there's one of these in my mom's attic, or we have one of these in our storage unit. So you may already have these items, you just don't know their value. You can get both the calendar and the Bolo book in my eBay store. The link is below the podcast. And I really love that the eBay community has these materials so that we can come together and have a sense of community, even if you aren't on social media very much or at all. I love that we have something in common that is physical and we can pull out and look at it every day so that we can all make more money from this information. Okay, one more quick announcement. I have a new course in the premium content library focusing on mid-century modern. There are 3 segments so far, and I'm really digging deep into very specific brands, designers, styles, keywords, because mid-century modern is hot right now, and these things are only going to get more valuable. The more you know, the more money you can make. And I guarantee that when you're outsourcing for items to sell, you are passing over items that you don't even know have value. So members, make sure that you check that out. And if you're not a member, you may want to come join specifically to take this course, because I guarantee you're going to learn something new and it's going to help you make more money. Okay, let's get into the chat with Shawn.
All right, we have Shawn with us today, and she is located. I didn't even ask you where you're located, so tell us.
I'm in Austin, Texas.
Oh, the thrifting mecca of the United States.
Right. We have a lot of competition here.
Okay. And your last name on Zoom is different than what's on Facebook. So what is your last name?
My name is Shawn Carpenter Marshall.
Okay, so that people can look you up on Facebook, because one reason I reached out to you was all the amazing sales you post. I'm like, who's this Shawn Carpenter? I got to get her on here and talk to her.
Right. I've had some fun ones.
Okay. Well, we always start off with how you got started with eBay, because it is different for everybody, but it is possible for everybody. So tell us a little bit about that.
Right. I've always liked to thrift personally for myself. I love old t-shirts. I live in them. I love them. You just can't buy an old t-shirt at the store. So thrifting has always been something that I love doing. After I had my daughter, I stay at home with her and I just needed a hobby. So I went to some garage sales, picked up a few things, and started selling on eBay. I had done it a little bit before, just kind of here and there. And it was just kind of for fun. My boyfriend had to come and pick up some stuff for me at a garage sale where I pretty much bought way too much stuff. I needed 2 carloads. When he got there, he found a doll that was $5 that I overlooked. He picked it up, he listed it, and it sold. He picked it up for $5. It sold for $200 or something, and he was hooked. So he started.
Your boyfriend picking up a doll.
Right.
That's an odd thing for a guy to just spot, like, oh.
It was a Howdy Doody doll.
Okay.
Very old.
Okay.
And so he was kind of hooked after that. And we started both doing it together. He worked nights at the time. And so on the weekends, just whenever he had time. And we just kept going and kept doing it. It was something that we liked to do together. And 3-4 months into it, we decided that we would just do it full time. So the pandemic hit.
Okay. So this was when you started, was like 2019, maybe?
Right.
Okay. So you haven't been doing it all that long either.
I haven't. And very quickly it became our full-time job. And it really worked out in our favor because, with the pandemic, our daughter has special needs. So she has a crazy schedule. You never know when she's going to be in the hospital. Our schedule doesn't really fit into someone else's 9 to 5 schedule.
Mhm.
So it really has worked out for us. It's been a lifesaver and it's fun. So
And so your boyfriend, does he still have a full-time job?
no,
So you are just 100% eBay is your income.
it is. We do sell on other platforms, but eBay is the bulk of it.
Oh, I should rephrase that. Reselling is your full-time income.
It is.
Okay, well, that's a little bit different than most of my guests because most of my audience is part-time. They fit it in when they can, that kind of thing. So it's refreshing to talk to someone who is full-time because that's the goal of a lot of people. And you are younger than my typical audience member. I look at my stats. So I see YouTube gives me stats on the demographics of the
Right.
viewers. So I can see the age range, and most of them are around my age. So I am 55, but
I'm not that far from you. I'm 47. So
you are? Oh
Yeah.
my God. I thought you were in your 20s. You look so young.
No. I have a 30-year-old daughter. Yeah.
It's those Zoom filters,
And a 3-year-old.
right?
So
How old's your daughter?
I have a 30-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old daughter.
You're kidding me. Well, whatever you're doing to
Shocking.
look young, keep doing it. Wow, I thought you were a lot younger. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
Anyway, so you are right in there, but a lot of people are transitioning from their full-time job. They're just hanging in there to get that teacher pension, that law enforcement pension. And it's like, they're ready to be full-time eBay right this second, but they're like, yeah, I got 2 more years till I get my pension. And they're not going to get
I'm
that.
old enough to know that it's worth it
Yes.
to work for myself.
Okay. So
my time is worth it.
When did you jump ship and just decide reselling was going to be your full-time income?
It was just a few months into starting, and it was in 2019. It was we only had one income. I was staying home with her, and he was working evenings, and it was just tough. It was no fun.
Was there
And
one
then-
thing like a catalyst or a tipping point, and you guys were just like, yeah, we're just doing this full time. Let's just do it.
Well, it was just fun, and we started. The more we did it, the more we realized that we could make more money.
Yeah.
Just it's all about just continuing to teach yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think
that's-
one thing, even if those with a regular 9 to 5 don't have a pension coming or anything like that, it's the benefits. That's what keeps them there is, if you're a teacher, you get summers off with pay and, all those great things and the insurance and all of that. So did you give up anything like that?
Well, no, we have a little bit of a different story. My daughter is disabled, and she has Social Security. And so in order for us to keep her on, it benefits us to not make a terrible amount of money to keep her benefits.
Right.
Some of the things private insurance won't pay for that she needs. So it's been a lifestyle change for us, but it's really all about her. And everything we do now just kind of works around what she needs. And this works for us.
You could classify yourself as a caregiver.
Yes.
Yes. That
for the most part, she usually has a nurse. But with the pandemic, there are very few nurses. Right now, she's getting 0 of her 86 hours of nursing care.
Oh, no.
So, but that's what I mean. This has been, it's so flexible that no matter what happens out there that's out of our control, we can adapt with this.
So you're saying with the supplemental Social Security, there are boundaries, like you can't make more than a certain amount of money or you don't get it?
Right.
Yeah. Just like,
I mean, just like for somebody that's retired.
right. Well, and the thing is, for the retired people listening, a lot of them are focused on, I can't make more than this, or, it's going to affect my Social Security. But you really need to look at the big financial picture, because
Right.
if you can make an additional $25,000 a year doing eBay and having fun and loving it, okay, so you just pay taxes on it. Like,
Right.
I would rather keep 75% of what I'm making than just not do it at all.
Right.
So it's all about working the numbers.
Right. And so with her, it's not as much about the Social Security check as it is about the insurance.
Mhm.
And there's a lot more leeway with your finances on just keeping the insurance part. So, and that varies from state to state too.
Yeah,
But there's
yeah.
there's a whole lot of moving parts, and
Mhm.
eBay just really helps us be as flexible as we can be with everything. We have no control. We have no control over the pandemic. We have no control over her health issues, or whether or not there's a nursing shortage, or so.
Yeah.
But
And
this has just really taken a lot of pressure off, and we've had days where we can't work at all because we're in the hospital. But anything that we've already listed, somebody can run off and ship. And so it works for us. Um,
well, you're one of those people that's an example of that saying, that you have no idea what battle a person is fighting, because
right.
you just come on the group and you post your amazing sales, and I keep seeing all this stuff you're selling. And on the outside, it looks like, wow, her life is so easy. She's just selling all this stuff on eBay and making all this money. And no, and that's everybody, really, everybody that I talk to is like, they have personal struggles going on. It's not as easy as it appears on social media. So I commend you for building your life around caring for your daughter and finding a way to do it with a smile and love what you're doing, because it really does seem like you love eBay.
We do. We love what we do. And honestly, we don't feel like it's a struggle. We feel like we're doing, I mean, it's just a lifestyle. We don't even, most of the time, we don't feel like we work. But then I think about it, and as soon as I wake up in the morning, I'm working, and I'm working probably more than I ever have, but it doesn't feel like work. It's just what I do. And it's fun.
Exactly. Yeah. And I asked you before we started recording if you had eBay buddies that you talked to, because normally when sellers come on this podcast, the time just flies, because we both have the same passion, but the average person doesn't have anybody to talk about eBay with.
Right.
And most people in their life don't get it. And you're like, oh no, that's our life.
Yeah, well, I have my partner is my eBay partner, so it is. I mean, it really is our. I guess I have someone all the time.
Yeah,
So.
and you're very fortunate, because there's a lot of people out there whose spouses or partners, they don't get it, they don't support it, they don't want all that stuff in their house. You're on the computer too much, whatever it is, and you're very blessed to have a supportive partner that you live with to do this business with. Because when you've got
make it very clear, we do it very differently.
Well, to be working together, it's like that's two brains instead of one. So, that's a great thing. Okay, so now
we like to share our finds and with each other, and we sell different things. So if anyone looks at our store, you'll see that there are a lot of Plush, which I do, and he sells men's clothing. So very different.
But whatever works. I mean,
right. It's just what we like. So
I think that's the way I would do it if I had a significant other. You know, you do your thing, I'll do my thing, but we support each other. We talk about it. We bounce ideas off of each other. We share the victories of the, high dollar sales, all that stuff. That makes a huge difference.
Yeah, we both definitely the high dollar sales.
Well, let's talk about some of those. That's a perfect segue into what are some things that you've sold, some of your best sales.
So I think one of our first ones that was surprising, a lot of our high dollar sales turn out to be just surprises. Chris went to a Goodwill, and back when we first started, we were picking up a lot of mugs. We don't do that anymore, but we were. Starbucks. And a cart had just rolled out and it was full of Starbucks mugs. And in there was a Starbucks piggy bank. He picked it up. It was $1.99. And he was just going to throw it up and list it for, $20 or whatever, comparable to what we were listing the mugs for. And I looked it up and I couldn't find it anywhere on eBay. Looked on Google, and I could only find one. And I think it was listed for $700. So I listed mine for, I think, $600 or something. Not knowing. And it was one of the Zodiac. It was the first Zodiac series pig that they did. And apparently there's big collectors for those. It was in perfect condition. It still had the tag on it. I listed it for $600, and in a few days we got an offer for $400, and I couldn't accept it fast enough. I was so excited.
Oh my gosh, really?
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it was real. They paid right away. I'm sure they felt like they got a great deal. It went off to Japan, made it in one piece. Very exciting. That was the first really exciting sale that we had. I mean, we've had some others that we knew were good. We found a set of Cutco knives, paid $30 at a garage sale. They sold in an hour for $300, which we probably undersold those. But again, that was when we were first starting, and
still
starting it around was really exciting and fun.
I mean, is it really worth waiting maybe another 6 months for another $100?
At that point, it wasn't, because we were just starting.
When you have so much around you to find, that it's like you can find more stuff, and you keep it going. When you are living on that money, it's very different than doing this as a part-time job. And I don't know if you know my story, but that's what I started with. Was I lost my job and went through a divorce in the same month, and was just trying to keep my head above water, and just started selling stuff, and then realized this could be a business and just do it on purpose. But I kept track of every penny, because that eBay money is what paid my mortgage and, bought groceries and paid all our bills. And so that's not the case now. I do a lot of different things, but when the mortgage is coming up next week and you need $500 in sales, and you get that $300 one, you take it. It's like, okay, I could have held out for a little bit more, but I got to pay these bills and keep my credit score good and all those kind of things. So,
we started with about $300, and we've used that to grow the business and live off of. So in the beginning, we priced things lower than maybe we would now. And we're just excited about every sale. Just kept going and going and going. Now I tend to try to match the highest price I've seen sold or higher. Because I know that people like to give offers, and I like to put my store on sale. I know that helps keep the algorithm going. So I've learned a lot of techniques to just keep things moving. but I do like to price my things higher. And if they don't sell, I can always put them on sale.
Right, exactly. And I think
Right.
for the listeners, this is a perfect example of why completed listings, sold listings, the prices can be so different. People ask me all the time, like, I've got this item and I'm researching it, and one sold for 500 and one sold for 200, and they're exactly the same. Why? And it may not have to do with the buyer at all. It may have to do with the seller. Like they
Right. If
need a
they can't make 500 if they only ask for two.
right. And so I know when I have slow times that I accept offers I might not accept when things are rolling along really well.
Right.
You know, obviously I stick to my price on very unique items. Like I'm going to hold out for this item or that. But when it's slow and you're not getting sales, you take some of those low offers to keep the ball rolling. So there's so many factors involved in why did this product sell for this price. It's not an exact science. There's a lot of human influence on the prices. And a lot of times it's just because the seller took a low offer.
Also, I think that I prefer the buyer that's willing to pay more without a sale. Those buyers typically are less of a problem. You almost never have an issue with a buyer that's willing to pay more. Somebody
Absolutely.
I mean, it's no offense to people that love bargains, because I do. I don't buy anything retail if I can help it, but it's just my experience that the people that want something that's already half off and they want half off of that, or pay 30% for something,
Or
they're
the
almost always going to have a problem.
the people that say, what's the lowest you'll take?
Right.
And I'm like, okay, you haven't even bought anything yet, and you're already complaining about the price.
Right.
This is not going to go well.
Right.
Or they send you all these super nitpicky questions, and I need you to measure the buttonhole because I'm going to put these special buttons on this jacket and all these things. And it's just like, my intuition says this is just not going to end well. There's just some people out there, and you can tell by the questions they ask that you just can't satisfy them. They're not, and they're the people that go into a restaurant, there's always a hair in their food, or they're the one at the bank who's complaining about the long line, or that's just the way they do life. So you're exactly right. Just buy it, and let's not have any discussions about it. And
they will they will throw up all the red flags. Usually they will warn you ahead of time. They're going to be a problem.
The longer you do this, the faster
Right.
you see those, because you have experience with those kinds of customers. Yes, I love my eBay buyers. We wouldn't have a business if we didn't have them, but you just learn to be more discerning with working with people based on what they ask.
Right. And there's some wonderful buyers too. I love the ones that leave all the wonderful notes. People that buy Plush are a different breed, and you get a lot of older people that some of them say they have Alzheimer's, or they have a pet that has passed and they want something that reminds them of that, or there's just different reasons that people buy stuffed animals, and you wouldn't think that it would be something that it's definitely something that people don't need. And I like to sell those types of things, something that somebody doesn't need. You don't get as many returns, I think, on stuff like that. People are buying it because they love it. They want it. Just a different kind of experience altogether.
And it's the nostalgia, that emotion that you cannot put a price on.
Right.
Because I saved a Charlie Brown plush. It was maybe 12 inches long. And I had a dog, a little miniature dachshund, and she used to carry that thing around everywhere. And that was just her boyfriend, and she would sit on his head and all this. We just laughed the way she played with that. and actually I had bought it to resell, and she got into my stuff and claimed it as hers. And, she had it forever. And, that is on my bed because, she went to doggy heaven in like 2016. And I just kept that toy because it reminds me of her. And I get things like that all the time, messages like that about different kinds of items, that it's the nostalgia, the memories that surround that item. And you said you don't get as many returns. Have you ever gotten a return of a plush?
I actually have a return coming right now on a plush. It's very rare. They opened a return saying that they purchased the item to replace something they lost in a fire, and they got the item and realized it's not the same one. So they're paying return shipping, not a big deal. It's, I don't know that I would do it personally. They're not going to get much money back in the end, but after paying shipping both ways. But they were honest. They weren't one of these sellers that tried to make something up if there was something wrong with it. They just, it just wasn't what they thought it was. So.
Right. And I sell plush, and I never gotten a return. I have sold hundreds and thousands of them, but that's just something that doesn't come back. And I do sell clothes, and usually the reason for the return is it didn't fit.
Right.
And to the listeners out there, I do put measurements, but sometimes you just have to try it on. Right. It's how it hits your body. Everybody's body's different. And, that's perfectly acceptable to me to have to deal with clothing returns, because it'll sell again. I'm not worried about that. And usually they choose didn't fit, so they have to pay return shipping. So you just have to be open to accepting returns. Like if it didn't work for somebody, they can send it back. But I have not had any returns of plush. And I do sell more vintage ones, like 90s, 80s, even 70s stuff.
It almost never happens. And they don't break in the mail. There is an issue with selling plush. They take up a lot of space. I have over 1,000 listed, and I'm probably not even going to tell you how many I don't have listed, but I have a few death piles that I keep reorganizing to make them look less imposing. But I'm looking at one right now. It's like growing up to the ceiling, but I put them in these nice bags.
Well, whatever works for you. And when you do this full time, you do need more on hand. You don't want to leave things behind. And you can always have a garage sale. There's a lot of things you can do if you want to cull your inventory, like if it gets too overwhelming.
Right. So I think if anyone that's seen some of my sales that I've posted on the Money Making Mondays, almost all of them come in a bag of plush. So I get a bag of plush. They're shoved in there to where you can hardly see what's in there. But I see one or two things that I know are good, and then I have all the rest. And so they pile up. But for the most part, I think I've told someone before, I look everything up, because I've been very surprised at what something that looks like it would be nothing to me can be very valuable. So I don't know everything. I knew nothing before I bought the first bag of plush. And I've just learned as I go, and every day I learn more.
Well, I do like those grab bags, because you don't know what's in them, and there could be something in the middle that you can't even see.
Right.
So I've done a few of those and found $100 items in there.
It's a great learning experience too, because then for very little money, you can have items that you can look up and learn. But you see a lot of people in other groups that are at the thrift stores asking, should I buy this? Should I buy this? For me, it's a good learning experience to look up your own stuff and just get in there and try things. And for $2.99 for a bag of 10 to 15 plush. If it's not good, I'll just redonate it. It's not that big of a deal. So,
yeah. And I recently changed the rule in our Facebook group. I don't know if you saw that. For 2022, we changed some things. And one of the rules is no pricing help.
right.
We are not real-time purchase consultants. I saw that on another group. I was like, I'm stealing that. But it's true that you need to do your own research. And the problem with asking other people is that you become dependent on other people, and you need to be dependent on yourself. And I feel like the reason people ask is they're terrified of making a mistake, and they don't want to make that decision. They want somebody else to do it. So this is not a business where you can rely on other people. And another problem is what works for one doesn't work for another. So you've got 1,000 plush in your store. That's something you sell, but somebody else who only sells cowboy boots, they may not have the same success because the algorithm knows that plush sells in your store. So
Right.
they say, oh, price that at 300. And then they go do that, and it sits for 2 years.
Right.
So there's just too many disadvantages of relying on other people for pricing advice.
Right. And I've recently tried to make it a point to go to the bins like once a month. I don't really need to go shopping at all. Make that very clear. But sometimes I spend so much time in the house that I need to get out.
That's called a mental health day.
Yeah. And I realize that I'm creating more work for myself, but it's also what I love to do. So, but that's when I look for different things. I recently picked up a sign. I probably paid $1.50 for it. Sold in a couple days for $65.
Nice.
That's great. I've found some new clothing brands that I didn't know existed, that I would have never even. I mean, I don't really look at clothing in the thrift stores unless it's what my boyfriend sells, so women's clothing. But I found some new yoga brands that have sold for really great money. I found a pair of shorts last time, and I think we had them listed for $120. We paid 75 cents for them by weight, I think. And they sell for $120. We had a slow day. We took an $80 offer. So
that's the thing about eBay is there's always new brands that become popular. Like you've never
Right.
heard of them, and then all of a sudden everybody wants them. And maybe the trend will last a few years and then it kind of fizzles out, but something else comes along. Like right this second, something is being invented, designed, marketed that we've never heard of, that is going to be huge in 6 months.
Right.
Just, staying on top of that is always a challenge, but it keeps it fresh and interesting because who wants to just do the same things over and over all the time?
It's out of necessity too, I think. And in the Austin area, there are a ton of resellers. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of kids here that are looking for all of these vintage items, and you just can't get your hands on them. And you really need to wear some protective gear to shop at our Goodwill bins here, and really like be aggressive. And I don't really like to do that. So I fall behind, and I look up every tag. I look for quality, what I think feels like quality. And then I look up the tags from there, and that's part of learning, and it's fun. So
I have a name for that I stole from another reseller here in Atlanta, Ashley, if you're listening. She called it the challenge of the leftovers.
Right. And there's good ones.
Yeah, there is. You just have to zig when other people zag, and, don't go for the obvious. As Amy Decker says, just there's plenty for everybody. And I just wait for those aggressive people to get out of the way. We don't have the bins here, and I don't think I'm cut out to do them. I'm not aggressive enough, but sometimes I'll see other shoppers and they're looking at something that just got put out. That's what I'm going for these days, is things that are just put out or that nobody knows about. So,
Right.
They'll be hovering over that back door, like just waiting like vultures for them to come out with more stuff. And I'm over in another section doing something else. And then I go check it out. But, 4 or 5 people have already looked at it, and they don't sell what I sell. They
Right.
don't know what I know. And so it took a long time to get there and not be anxious about, oh my gosh, there's not gonna be anything left for me. All these other people are going to get it. And it's like, no, I've been doing this almost 20 years now. And I've never left a thrift store empty-handed, ever.
I would love to be one of those people that pulls out several $2,000 band t-shirts from the bins, but I have to, I'm not young or aggressive. So I have to step back and just look for other things. And I've done well doing that. I've really taught myself a lot. There's definitely brands that I have no idea about. I live in old t-shirts and jeans. So fashion isn't my thing. So
yeah, me too. It's all about
it takes
comfort.
a lot of research.
It's all about comfort now. And just,
right.
I have a few things I wear when I go out to a restaurant, but it's like, I don't need a big wardrobe. And I'm with you on the t-shirts. They just feel more comfortable. It's right. The way they were made and what they were made with. Cause I'm a t-shirt person, but I'm very picky, and right. It's gotta be that super soft cotton that just, you can hardly feel it when you're wearing it.
Right. Yeah.
It's not that stiff, non-stretchy stuff.
I want something that's been washed 100 times.
Right.
And I didn't have to spend the money doing it. So.
But didn't you find some t-shirts? Am I thinking of the wrong
one? Maybe we've find stuff all the time. I mean, we do have vintage. What Chris sells is he likes to find vintage streetwear, but there's a huge amount of competition here for that. So we get what we can get, but we're really close to a couple good thrift stores. So literally one of our honey holes is across the street, so we can pop in several times a day, and we do see if there's a new rack that just rolled out that hasn't been put out yet, and we go several times a day and kind of just shop the rack.
So you look out your window with your binoculars and like, oh, they're putting stuff out. We got to go over there.
Just you get bored, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to walk across the street. So
I thought I remembered you posting some sales of vintage t-shirts at some point.
I'm not sure if I've posted any sales of t-shirts. Most of my bragging stuff has been about my plush.
Okay. Do you sell the jumbo plush?
I sell all sorts of plush. Just everything. The new stuff, the old stuff. I think my best selling one was that one from the 80s. My pet something. It was a little soft yellow thing. I found it in a bag. It was in perfect condition.
Oh, did it look like Chewbacca? It was just kind of weird looking and hairy.
Kind of. Yeah, and that thing was from the 80s, and I don't remember that myself. I'm an 80s kid. I was born in 74. So
I remember seeing that, and I'm like, what is this creature? I've never seen this before.
Yeah, it was kind of similar to, I guess it was back when like Care Bear Cousins would have been out and stuff like that. But it wasn't that brand. But it sold I listed it for $700. And it sold for $560 in just a few hours overnight. I woke up to an offer. It went to Australia. Had me sweating because it took a long time to get there. But
yes, I remember that. I think it was in a video, maybe a cover of a video, but it reminded me of the little friendly creature in Land of the Lost.
Right. It had
where it had like the hairy head, and it was kind of creepy looking.
it was in perfect condition. I think one of the places I get my stuff from has a warehouse full of old stuff. I'm Every time they get in a new truck, I find lots of old vintage stuff that looks like it's never been used. They don't sometimes they have tags on them. Most of the time they don't, but they clearly have never been played with. Um, I think some of the stuff comes from up north, and there's a lot of plush factories in New York. A lot of glass stuff goes on up there too, but there's a lot of plush that's made up there. So I think that maybe that's where maybe there's some old warehouse stuff being shipped down.
Yeah, and then you wonder how much of this stuff is just stored somewhere. It's been sitting in the dark for decades, and then magically it just comes out and ends up in front of you.
It's pretty exciting.
Do you do garage sales too?
I do when we have them. The last one I went to, I got those little 60s wall plaques with the big eyes. There was 4 of them, the girls. I got those for $1, and I think I sold them for 111 or something.
Wow.
That same garage sale, my boyfriend picked up a industrial espresso machine.
Oh, nice.
A very nice one. We thought about keeping it. It was so tech and hard to use. It wasn't quick. We do have a cheap espresso machine that we use every morning, but it wasn't. It turned out we weren't going to wait for this thing to heat up, and it's meant to be in a restaurant or with somebody that's way more serious about about drinking their coffee than we are.
Coffee snob.
Right. So we sold that real cheap because we couldn't really ever figure it out. We watched a lot of videos on how to, it was that difficult to use. We sold it, I think, for $300 or $400, something like that. But it's a $1,200 machine. But that's one of our things. We decided to sell it for parts. I'm positive that it worked properly, but we just couldn't, we couldn't be sure.
Yeah.
So, and we paid $5 for it. So,
right.
So we had a neighbor somewhere in the neighborhood who was moving and owned a coffee shop, and they were just getting rid of so much really nice stuff, and they were just getting rid of it, basically. They just wanted to not throw it in the trash. So
their loss is your gain.
Nothing. So
nice.
So that was a good. But there hasn't been a whole lot of garage sales around here with the pandemic, and people are very careful. Still, we've gone to a few estate sales, but those are hard for us to go to because on the weekends we haven't had a nurse on the weekend in a long time.
Right.
I've tried to take, her name is Cersei. I've tried to take her with me, but trying to carry her up and down the stairs, and it's not, people's homes aren't wheelchair friendly, and, so it's just not something that's easy to do.
Right.
But
logistics would be tough on that.
Right. So,
yeah. Well, you mentioned you have probably 1,000 plush. How many total items do you have in your store?
We currently have 2,030, I think.
And you just have the one store. Y'all don't have separate stores.
Right. We have a one eBay store. We do separate our stuff that we cross list to Mercari. So we each do our own Mercari. But for eBay, it's all one store.
So with that many items, do you see a general number of items sold a day, or is there a goal that you like there?
I think recently our sales seem to have slowed down a bit, but it seems like we're still selling anywhere between $100 and $300 a day is a good average on just small items. But but I can tell if we don't continue to list. It almost seems impossible to get the store number down without it affecting our sales. So I think that's one reason that having the Plush is great, because it costs nothing, and it's a good filler. If we don't have anything else and we don't want to go spend money at the thrift store, we have these really low cost items that we kind of try to keep the algorithm going and keep a certain amount listed.
Do you ever go back to old listings and rework them, or do you just set it and forget it?
I do. I actually just started using a cross lister. And with that, every morning I look at the 30 stale listings and relist them. And I'm trying to get my Plush up on every platform that I can right now, just to try to move them more so that I can get some of, I want to get some of these Plush out of my death pile without having to buy more bins. I don't want to start taking up even more space.
Right.
So I'm trying to, I'm trying.
That's called inventory creep. I have
right.
a name for everything in this business.
There were like 3 months in a row where there were so many good Plush, and I was literally bringing carloads home every day. And so now I'm still going through that. So I had a lot of mental health days and still.
Well, but like you said, it's not returned very often.
Right.
Some of them just sell for crazy money. What is the highest price you've ever gotten on a Plush?
I think that one that we were just
we already went over that. Okay.
$560. But I've sold several in the $200 range, and $100 range. Yeah, I think that's not something that's too hard to find.
My highest was 225.
Right.
It was I get them mixed up. I think it was the Play School Snuzzles, the plaid cow.
Oh, okay. Is that one of those nylon ones?
It's like a blanket. It's
okay.
soft like that. And then the accents, like the bottom of the feet and the horns, those were satin. So there's little places where the child can, feel that.
The little loveys. I haven't had as much luck with loveys. I don't know why. I have a few, but some of the older crib toys, the little rattles, Plush rattles and stuff, I've had some luck with those. The little Carter.
Yeah, there's some Carters. It's called Just One You or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I sold a few of those, and you pull them and they're musical, or there's something special about them. They do something.
Right.
Those I've sold for 40.
Right. And that's a good quick return, easy to ship. They're not coming back. I can't see myself not selling Plush. Sometimes I get I look at all this stuff stacked up around me, but it's just too the return's too good, and there's almost no risk.
Right. Yeah, and they're so cheap, and a lot of people won't do them. Right. Either because they don't believe they can sell for that much. Like that old ratty thing sold for that much. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Or they just don't like looking through them. They think it's gross. Like where has this been? And has a kid wiped their nose on this? And, all that kind of stuff. Cause thrift stores aren't clean.
Right.
They don't clean everything before they put it out. So you have to kind of get over that ick factor of digging through all of them, but it's like digging for treasure.
Yeah. And I love, that's my favorite part of all of this is the little rush you get when you find something that's cool.
And they're so easy to ship.
Oh yeah.
Like it don't break. You can squish them down. You can put them in a space bag, whatever you need to do. So
most of my stuff goes in a poly bag. If it has a tag, I'll put it in a bag and then in a box so that the tag doesn't get damaged, because I don't know if they're going to pull the tag off or if they're collectors. So, you know.
Yeah, if it's super nice, I'll put it in a box,
Right. Or if they spend a lot of money on it.
or yeah, if it's sold for a high price or it has plastic things that could break, if it gets squished under hundreds of pounds of mail. So you have to think about that part of it. But yeah, those are pretty easy. Now, so as far as clothing, you said you just look for t-shirts, or do you look for anything?
For myself personally, as far as clothing goes, if I'm at the bins, I'm just looking for new brands. It's a learning experience for me. I'm looking for treasures that I don't, that I know nothing about. I'm looking for, I'm not really sure what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's just the
education. I'm looking for money.
Right. You're just open to whatever to educate yourself on what might be out there that you don't know about. And trust me, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you've been doing this since eBay started on day one. There's new stuff to learn every day.
Yeah. And that's the fun part of it. I get bored. I definitely get bored with my Plush. I'm not going to stop doing it. I love it. It's the money is good. There's no risk, but doing the same thing over and over gets boring. And so that's when I get bored. If I need a break from that, then I can just do something different. I can do whatever I want. Right.
I know. Isn't it great being your own boss?
So if I want to go out and just look at different things and just most of that, I'll find something that that's I think will sell quickly. It's probably not going to be something that I normally have in my store. But if I can pay just a little bit, flip it quickly, and it's just gave me something different to do for the day, then it's a win. So
going back to your statement, I do what I want. Have you worked in corporate America?
Before this, I owned another business. But I guess it was kind of a service industry business. I owned a mobile sign shop. We did vehicle graphics. But working with a lot of people, I guess my customers were fleet managers and that type of.
Okay. I'm asking because for those who've had experience working in corporate America, and you just have to follow all their rules, no matter how stupid they are. And it's like, this doesn't make sense. That's what was my frustration with every corporate job I ever had. Was I would observe a process and be like, it's more efficient if we do it this way. We'd be in meetings, committee meetings and stuff, and meetings to have a meeting and all that. Right. And I would make suggestions on why can't we change this? It would be so much better for everyone and the customer, and working at the bank and all these little ladies who couldn't balance her checkbook. We were not allowed to help them. And I'm like, but this woman has $500,000 in our bank. Why can't I sit with her and help her? And it was just like, you're not allowed to do the right thing.
Right.
And I ended up going to these ladies' houses after work and just helping them because they didn't have anybody. And I just thought it was the right thing to do. I was like, they can't stop me from doing this on my own time. But so then you become a business owner, and I should have been an entrepreneur all along. I just didn't realize it. But it's like, you don't like something, you can change it. You don't have to ask anybody. You don't have to hear their reason why you can't change it. You don't have to go through 8 committee meetings to get it done. You just change it.
Right.
And it's just like, this business is so fluid. It can be anything you want. This week can be different than next week. And that's what I love about it. Yes, my successes are my successes and my failures are my failures, and I own them, and that's perfectly fine. Anything's better than working for somebody else in my world.
Right. And you can pivot anytime you want. you're not stuck with, if you decide you're going to sell glass when you get started, you don't have to keep doing that. You can pivot anytime you want.
Yeah, and you can
You
change the
never
name of
know,
your-
you're going to fall in love with something else along the way. I didn't start selling Plush, but that's where I am now. I might not be here next year, but right now that's what I'm doing. But I like that. I like that it can and will change.
You're not married to any one product line. You can change the name of your store if your products change and it doesn't match anymore, and you can change your store name as many times as you want. So,
right. You can continually reinvent yourself and your business and your store. The more you learn, you will. It'll change with your lifestyle, your personality, what you love to do, as it should.
and I think it has to change. You have
Right.
to constantly be mining for more ideas and paying attention to what other successful people are doing. And you can have as many different things as you want. There's no rules. And if it doesn't work now, but it's worked before, you don't have to do it anymore. You just say, you know what? That has run its course. That has fizzled out. It's time to move on to some other stuff.
That's why we don't work in the corporate world.
Yes.
It's like Groundhog's Day every day.
Yeah. Or like,
Don't
you look at the
operate well in
big,
that environment.
say that again.
Some of us don't operate well in that environment.
No, but still you look at the big corporate companies like McDonald's, not everything they introduce works.
Right.
They'll come out with some weird sandwich and nobody likes it, so they take it off the menu. That's how you have to do business. I mean, you have to pay attention to what is working and what isn't working.
Yeah, and it's not. I don't see anything that we try as a failure. It's a learning experience. It's all just information. So
Yeah, and I think
you just
one reason that keeps people away from eBay is, like we said before, they don't want to be responsible for making bad decisions. And there's just people who, whether it's their pride or just their personality, they're never going to admit they made a mistake. Like I say it all the time. Yeah, that didn't work. Okay, what's next?
right.
Or, yeah, that was a bad idea, or I couldn't make that happen. And once you start saying that, you get used to it. You condition yourself to realizing the only way you're going to know if it works is to try it.
Yeah, true. And there's just so many ways to do this that going into this is not how you're probably going to come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of information. You're going to be influenced by what other people are doing. You're going to be influenced by how much time you have, how much space you have, what your resources are around you. There's a million different ways to have an eBay business.
There are as many ways to do it as there are sellers. Everybody does it their own way. And that's what this podcast is about, is like talking to real people that do it every day and seeing what we can learn from each other. So you've given a lot of great ideas.
Chris and I don't do things the same at all. We don't shop the same. He goes into the store very quickly. He knows what he wants and he looks really quickly. I like to take my time. I'm not married to anything. Whatever happens. He comes home and he processes all of the stuff at once. I don't necessarily do that. I get around to it. But even in the same household, we have different styles of work and shopping and what we think are cool and, what we want to sell.
So he comes home with something that's not really your cup of tea and you're like, hey, that's awesome. I wouldn't have bought that, but good for you.
Yeah. Well, mostly clothes. Like I just don't, I want to buy clothes at the thrift store for myself, but first of all, I'm intimidated by women's clothes. There's so many styles. I don't dress I mean, I work from home. I don't get dressed most of the time. Um, and so, it's just too much. It's too much, overwhelms me. I have no clue what people are wearing now. I couldn't even guess. I'm so glad the 90s are back in style because that's when I was in high school. And I've always thought that stuff was cool. And so now it's like come back around, and I still have some in my closet. So I feel like I'm on trend all of a sudden again, but
Everything always, it just
change.
cycles around 30-year cycles,
Right.
it just, oh, this is back in. Okay. I remember that. I can do that style.
Yeah, I can right now I can find what the kids are looking for, but a few years from now, I'm not gonna have a clue. So,
But you'll be so much wiser.
right. Well, I don't know. I'm gonna stick to something different than clothes, but I look, I've learned to find old, sweatshirts by the feel. So I just go down the aisle and just touch everything. And if I find one that feels vintage, then I look at it. But I don't spend a lot of time looking at every tag.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look through the hard goods and the Plush.
Yeah, that is definitely your thing.
Yeah.
With 1,000 of them listed, you're going to get some views on your store.
Right.
People are going to be like, what is she listing? So
I'm competing with myself. I'm looking for the next higher amount I can sell one for. So that's what I'm looking for every time I go.
Absolutely.
Next big one. So
yeah. And it's just, you never know who's been there before you and what they know.
Right.
Don't assume that just because it's been there for a month, there's something wrong with it. Plenty of people don't even look at that stuff. I didn't for
the
years.
store that I go to, it's not there. They are gone. The bags of Plush are gone in a matter of minutes from them being put out. So that might be another reason that I hoard them. I just buy them all when I see them.
Right.
It wasn't like that at first. They sat for a long time and I had my pick. And I don't know if people have caught on, maybe me posting stuff hasn't been helpful.
Well, I think that it's just being talked about more. It used to be something not very many sellers did.
Right.
But I think over even the last 5 years, it's just been more information about selling plush, and there's just more of it, I think, out there to pick from. And people are realizing.
I've seen some of the people that I followed on YouTube when I first started selling plush have started already jumping ship and looking for other things. They're saying that they're not selling for as much as they were, and that may be true for kind of the bread and butter items, but there's still a lot of really high priced ones out there. But I feel like because I'm primarily sell plush that I need to have all price points.
Right.
And so I do. I have anywhere from $15 to a couple $100.
But if you
I
think
sold a lot
about
during the holidays. A lot of the stuff that sat for a long time.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
sold
moved
during
during
the
the
holidays.
holidays.
So I just kept them priced high, and they surprisingly, like the mohair bunnies and
Mhm.
big jumbo plush that I really regretted picking up because they were huge. A lot of them finally sold, but
Finally got rehomed, right?
yeah.
So I think with plush, though, it's like clothes.
Mhm.
Every kid, they don't have just one stuffed animal. They've got 20 or 30.
Right.
Every kid has a whole bunch.
Right.
And when you go to garage sales and mom is like, okay, it's time to get rid of some of this, and there's a lot of them. So I think it's just a plentiful product to look for, because as the kids grow up and don't need them or want them anymore, maybe they'll keep a couple of them that are special, but
most of them don't get played with either. They just get put away. there's too many of them. There's only one favorite or a couple favorites, and the rest are just put away, tossed, put in a bag and thrown in the garage until they donate them. I can't imagine how many are in landfills. That's a whole nother story. I feel like I have to rescue everything.
I know, I do
especially
too. I'm
books.
like, oh, I got to rehome this. Someone can love this. It doesn't have to
Right.
go in the trash. So that's the whole recycling aspect of it. But I
I
think
have, I ended up with my grandfather's books, and most of them are vintage textbooks that I would think nobody really would want, but I sell them and I won't throw a single one away. So it's kind of a labor of love. I am rehoming them, one at a time, listing them. I might get $6 or $20 for a book, but they all have my granddad's name inscribed in them, and they're all going to end up in someone else's library. So that's kind of has really nothing to do with the reselling business, but I am reselling them in the store. So
well, and that's probably what he would have wanted was for them to go to someone who would appreciate them.
Right.
I think that's the whole point of rehoming something is I've been the custodian of this item for however long, and now it's going to go to someone else who can appreciate it and love it. And then maybe it'll go on to somebody else after that. Just keeps getting circulated.
Yeah. These books, some of these books are 100 years old, and I just cannot I can't donate them because I feel like they're going to end up in the trash. And so I will list them and sit on them until they sell. And I don't care if somebody offers me something, I don't care what it is. It's just the fact that they want it, then that's where I want it to be. But, it's really not part of, the business. It's just my obsession with saving things. It makes me, I guess, do something like this to begin with. So.
But at least you're not rescuing hundreds of animals.
No, but I come from a long line of women who do. So.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I helped the Humane Society for years, and you have that rescuing instinct, and I just kind of shifted it to thrift store stuff.
Right. And that's important.
I've had 4 animals at a time throughout my life. I've always had more than one, and I don't have any right now.
Me too.
But it's like
I'm loving it. Kind of.
I've done my work there, and so now I'm moving on to rescuing something else. But I commend all the rescue people out there that do it. But it is like this innate urge to rescue things.
Right. Yeah. I haven't picked up a bunch of stuff on the side of the road. I've had friends that do that. I'm not a hoarder.
Right. I'm
not a hoarder yet. He might say different, but I'm not.
Right.
And but I hate to see. I love to read, and I hate to see books go in the trash. I can't rescue them all from the bin, so I don't try. There's so many books that are going to end up in the trash. And I'm not an Amazon seller. I don't mess with that. I have enough to do.
Yeah.
But I can't resist an old book. I just can't.
Well, we're going to wrap this up. And the last question I want to ask you, since you are full-time, is what kind of advice would you give to someone who is transitioning from part-time to full-time?
Keep very good records. Keep an inventory system, and start your taxes and keep your records for your taxes and inventory system from the very beginning. Even if you don't think you're going to end up with 1,000 items, you might, and so much time can be wasted looking for stuff. And it's frustrating. So that's the best advice is, just start right away with an inventory system and a process for keeping your numbers.
So be a business and be organized from the beginning so you don't have to figure it out later.
Right. Just it's so much easier if you just do it from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Like
That is
brushing your
great
teeth.
advice. Okay, Shawn. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with me for this podcast and sharing what you know. And we will see you and your amazing sales on the Facebook group.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again, Shawn, for taking the time out of your busy day to chat about eBay. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. I appreciate all of you. Reach out to me anytime. I love hearing from you. And as always, have a profitable, productive, and fun day on eBay. Talk to you next week. Bye.